You're out. You've done the work. You love women and you're not apologizing anymore for it. And yet, there are still these moments in a restaurant, at a family gathering, in a work meeting where you catch yourself hesitating, even just a little. There's a part of you that quietly shrinks. And in those moments, you might feel this hum of, is everything okay? This is the nuances of a system that was not made for us, long after we understood what was actually going on. Today I want to talk about something I call lesbian phobia and looking at it as a stealth egregor. While healing isn't just about fixing yourself, it's also about recognizing that's stuck in these shadow parts, dying to be recognized and released. And the good news is it can be. So what is a stealth egregor? It is a concept from psychology and philosophy, and it refers to a collective pattern, a shared psychological understanding that then takes on a life of its own. A stealth egregor is one that is quiet by nature because it doesn't need to be loud to be enforced. It survives because it's held inside of us so unconsciously, and after generation, there's a lot of compliance. It's part of our self-monitoring, or those quiet contractions in those spaces when we are repressing aspects of who we are. Lesbian phobia in stealth egregor means the system doesn't need homophobes in the room anymore. It's already done its deepest work inside of us and inside of others. It's installed inside of our nervous systems and our psyches during our childhood and adolescence. Every time we were told directly or indirectly that lesbian love is wrong, too visible, too much, not worthy. And then it becomes stealth inside of us, even when we're out and proud after years of therapy and community and pride parades. This pattern can run really deep and quietly, and it becomes a part of our instinct, a part of our reactions to the world that we're living in. It can be very unconscious. We've recognized that we're falling into these patterns. It can also happen when we're struggling to come out. It's a part of that, or when it's a long process and you're dealing with a lot of internalized shame, or you can't figure out what's going on, or when you came out later and you don't know why. How does it show up? It shows up in a bunch of ways. As I was kind of saying before, that it can be that relationship minimizer when you, in a moment, refer to your partner, or girlfriend, or wife as a friend. It gets a little ambiguous in that moment, and not because you're closeted, because you've learned to read the room and protect yourself from the exhaustion of explaining. This is the visibility tax collector, and it shows before you show affection in public, after doing a rapid threat assessment, even in relatively safe spaces. It's when we learned that we just do it automatically. And as I said, it's beneath our awareness, but there might be this kind of feeling that something's off. Then there's the deserving gap, that persistent sense that your relationship or you are not quite legitimate, as serious, or as real as heterosexual partnerships or the straight world. This is also, again, very subtle, or it can be more overt. It might be in the ways you celebrate more quietly in certain spaces. You might grieve more alone when things go wrong in a relationship, or you might be more quiet about it at work or family gatherings, because you also know it's just not going to be mirrored in the same way because of the stealth egregor. I mean, just fill in the blanks here. I'm sure you can kind of think of some ways this might show up for you. Also, the competitive measure, the way that we might compare ourselves to other lesbians and queer women. Am I queer enough? Am I lesbian enough? Am I smart enough? Am I cute enough? Am I political enough? Am I athletic enough? So on and so on. Comparing ourselves to others and feeling competitive is a very natural human trait, but it takes on a different way when it's between us in our communities. And then the apology reflex that desire to just apologize or try to make the straight world feel more comfortable in your presence. You're very acutely aware of what makes them comfortable and not comfortable, and you manage what you say and how you show up because of that. So I'm hoping this helps you see the ways that this shows up in your life, and then awareness is going to help change how we do this. It can be so hard to see because it's so hidden, but the awareness that we can develop helps us realize how much these behaviors are actually linked to our survival strategies. Those adaptive responses that I talk about often that helped us survive at one point, but then start outliving their usefulness as we get older. And then when you notice you're constricting in places when you could be totally free, especially internally. This is not to put us in dangerous situations. If it is not safe, if your family's not safe, if where you live is not safe, that's not what we're saying here. It's more of those places where you know you're actually physically safe, and then you're wanting to understand. One of the most important ways I've found to work with this wound is to first externalize its origin. So this wound was obviously placed in us by society and family messages, and not from an innate sense of who you are or your worthiness or lovability when you were born. And the psychology behind lesbian phobia as a collective energy, because it's a pervasive part of our collective belief system that intonates that lesbian identity is lesser, even if just by a little at this point, because of course the world is changing, but it's still there. Or your identity is more complicated or more political or more controversial. And that is just because of who we love and how we live differently. And then we internalize these ideas when we're young and open and impressionable and needing to stay connected to our caregivers. And then we take in the subtle and not subtle messages that we hear from the world long before we understand cognitively what they mean or what's happening. They get internalized and they come up as these other parts inside of us that have these voices that you're not good enough, you're not worthy, you're not lovable, you're less than, you need to shrink, you need to take care of everybody else, you need to be better than, you need to try harder, you need to do all of these things. So the research on minority stress theory, internalized homophobia, and what Dr. Elon Meyer calls distal and proximal stressors confirms that the psychological weight carried by lesbians and queer women, and all queer people, of course, including women who are fully out and affirmed, is real, measurable, and rooted in systemic discrimination. We absorb what the culture wants us to absorb. And here's what's kind of ironic about the whole thing, is because we're calling it a collective wound. It happens that we're often facing it collectively. However, when we do the inner work, when we work on how that egregor has been installed inside of you, it starts to lose its power, which in a sense is then going to affect how it's experienced collectively. When you're able to name it in a room, feel into it, when you're in the grips of it, it starts to lose that ability to hold you hostage in its unconsciousness, because it requires isolation and secrecy to survive, because it's very connected to the shame pieces. Because of the internalization of these messages, there's often becomes this repression then of our true selves, like all of the aspects of our true selves and our shared inheritance, because of the shame keeps it packed down, or the guilt you may feel for going against the system. And again, you may be out and proud, but there's like these pieces inside of us that stay stuck in there. And what I've found in my work is that it is so powerful when we figure out each single one of them, allow them space to have a voice, to talk about how they feel, to externalize where it came from, to depersonalize how it feels, feel somatically where it is located in the body. And then it's slowly through strategic processes with this lesbian affirmative inner work process, it becomes over time so much less powerful. And then in those moments, you start to notice the shifts that's happening in your relationships, within yourself, how you show up in certain public situations that used to be difficult for you. You're able to start practicing a kind of visibility that doesn't have any of the shrinking in it. You're able to hold your partner, wife, or girlfriend's hands in public and not feel anything uncomfortable, even for a moment. You might stop monitoring the room. You might say always that you have a wife or a girlfriend or a partner and never care about how it lands with anybody else, no matter what the population you're in with, no matter who you're hanging out with. As we do this work, we start to expand our window of tolerance, and we start to build this incredible resilience inside of ourselves, because the egregor wants you to stay small. It wants you to stay powerless. It wants you to stay constricted. It wants you to stay concerned. Also, what I found is working with an LGBTQ affirmative therapist can help, that are trained and initiated into looking directly at how this gets inside of us through a style of talk therapy and somatic work with mindfulness, EMDR, IFS. It can permanently change your relationship with these internalized messages, especially over time. Again, just to say, lesbian phobia is something that does not happen to us consciously. It's a self-egregor. It's a self-sustaining psychological collective pattern that has been passed down for centuries through demeaning and shaming messages. When we recognize it early on, or we start recognizing it, we're able to change how it impacts us. And we must remember too, this has been passed down for centuries through ancestry, through generational trauma, through collective agreement to stay stuck in this belief system that we are different and less than. The more we all work on this, the more we refuse to be compliant with any of this, the stronger you get, and then the stronger our community gets. Thank you, as always, for listening to my video. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you being here. I just know your time is valuable. I know it takes a lot sometimes to listen to long, dense videos like this, so thank you for spending this time with me and hanging in there with me. I hope you're finding this valuable material. I'm going to be uploading a lot more videos over time. I have a lot of free resources below. If you liked it, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. It's going to help me continue to grow, continue to give you more interesting and hopefully helpful topics.